Many people think that I started the school because maybe I saw a great Kung Fu movie and saw a Kung Fu player in there that was really great, so I wanted to open up a Kung Fu school. Or, I was involved in youth development in some large way, so I wanted to open up a youth development school. Well, both of those are kind of far away from the truth. What inspired me to open this school was back in the early 1970s. I had just gotten out of college, and Time magazine ran an article on Arthur Mitchell of Dance Theater of Harlem. And it wasn't Dance Theater of Harlem at that time, but Arthur Mitchell had rose to be a premier male ballet dancer. I think it was New York Ballet, and he was at the top of his game. And he was only the second black dancer to reach that height. And this was the years following Dr. King's assassination. So Arthur Mitchell said, I'm leaving this world of ballet, which I've risen to the heights of, and I'm going back to Harlem with all that talent there, with the young people there in Harlem, and I'm going to use my ballet training to show them that they have the talent, they have the skill, they have the drive, the energy, they have everything that all the other children who rise to greatness have. The only thing that they don't have is the resources. And the main resource they don't have is a talented individual that goes back and use what they've learned to teach them how to be not just as great, but even greater. That was the one thing that made me want to come and do something in the city where I was born, less than 10 blocks from where I was born, with all the talent and energy and magic that the young people in this community have. I wanted to come back and give them an avenue to developing that skill and being whatever they want to be, but doing it to great acclaim. What makes this school unique is that we blend traditional African culture with traditional Chinese culture, and then what comes out, right, is an empowered young person who is self-aware and can go out and communicate with over 1 billion people in the world that are Chinese and can communicate with them through their culture. Here on U Street, which is an area that they used to refer to as Black Broadway, has been known since the early 1900s to be a place where there was great theater, great art, great entertainment, and all the great icons of entertainment industry have played up and down U Street, whether it was Harry Belafonte, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday. All of those great people played up and down U Street. But prior to me opening the Institute here on U Street, there was no place where a young person could go where they could learn a functional skill or a performance art. Lion dance is a traditional cultural art, and it's a performance art. Dragon dance is also a performance art. All right, so drumming, synchronized drumming with the Chinese drum is a performance art. African djembe drumming and dance, these are performance art, all traditional, but all high-level performance art. So even today, Hung Tao Choy Mei Leadership Institute, located on historic U Street, Black Broadway in Washington, D.C., is still, for the past 23 years, the only venue on this street where young people can come and learn a performance art. Since we started in 1995, we've performed at every major venue here in Washington, D.C., whether it be the Lincoln Theater right down the street. We've played at the Black Cat nightclub, Bohemian Caverns, We've performed at the Verizon Center. We've performed at the Kennedy Center. We've performed at nearly every major street festival here in Washington, D.C., and still haven't got tired. We enjoy doing those things. We've also traveled. We've taken over 50 young people from this area to compete and train in places like Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, mainland China, and many of our young students have been with us 2 and 3 times. In our last international competition, which was in 2009, we competed at the tournament, which was the 60th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. And that tournament was held in Hong Kong. And our youngest competitor was 6 years old, and he won 2 gold medals at that competition. And prior to going to Hong Kong for that competition, we performed in mainland China, and the same 6-year-old was the first person to take the floor for us in that showcase of martial artists there in mainland China. So we're very happy to have been able to give our young people this kind of broad performing experience, whether it's been at major venues here in the U.S. or if it's been in prestigious competitions overseas. What we want our students to get is something that will stay with them all their life in terms of cultural awareness, education, geography. So we like to do more international competitions rather than we do local competitions. For example, on the last competition we went to in mainland China, our children competed at the arena, but when we left the arena, we toured southern China. We took the children to a silk making factory, a traditional factory, where they actually saw the silkworms on the leaves, eating the leaves. Then they saw how the silk was pulled from the worm. Then they saw how the silk was processed, you know, and then afterwards, one of the employees at the factory, he took a ball of silk and he took his cigarette lighter to show, he held the lighter under the silk to show that silk is inflammable. Silk, raw silk, doesn't burn. If you're going to compete in a competition here in the U.S., it may cost you $60 just for the entrance fee for one event, right? And then an additional $20 for each additional event. So if you have a young person that's going to do 3 events, that's $60 for one, and then $40 for additional 2. You're up to $100 right there. Then you have transportation, and it's usually an all-day event that they have to stay. So you have the cost for feeding the kids. So now, if I have 50 children in my summer camp, all right, which ones do I leave behind? Because I can't pay for all of them to go. We see mentoring as spending real, in-depth, quality time with young people when they walk through that door, you know, by staying with us throughout the year in the out-of-school time program, continuing through the summer when they're with us for 7 and 8 hours a day for 6 to 8 weeks, all right? And then after they have their little bit of a break between camp and school, they're back again with us after school. Some of those breaks, they're traveling with us on field trips. Summer camp, they may be going overseas. And when they take a trip with us overseas, not only they with us 8 hours a day, they're with us almost 24 hours a day. You know, from the time they get up in the morning and have breakfast, we're out doing some touring, doing some training, coming back, eating dinner together. So we're really talking about life all the time, you know, and giving them an opportunity to raise their voice about different things that they see. So it's not just, you know, a bump into each other, you know, a couple of times a month, but it's really staying with that child from the time that they enroll with us to making sure that child has our cell phone number, so if they get in a problem, they can call us like many of them do. So that's what we call mentoring. We opened in 1995. For the first 12 years, we received no corporate sponsorship, no government funding, agency funding of any type. The school was supported entirely out of pocket or by the few fees that adults paid to come in and get training, right? But as we moved out of the 90s into the early 2000s, the neighborhood began to rapidly change. New buildings were put up, new businesses came into the area, and a stream of new people came into the neighborhood who could afford these things, right? So our rents have increased, the corresponding taxes have increased, all the operating costs to run the school have increased, and at the same time, the funding streams that were once available in terms of grants that we could go after, those funding streams have either shrunken or are no longer available to us. We don't charge children between 5 and 18 who come here. All right, they're able to take and learn these skills and come under our mentorship for free, and that's the way it should be. Their parents are low income. If they don't have a Hung Tao Choy Mei, then they have to make the choice between out of school time activities for their children or food, clothing, and shelter. Now, and who's going to choose Kung Fu over food for their children? Who's going to take lion dance over housing for their children? Who's going to take African drumming over clothing for their children? So it's an easy decision. Yeah, it's an easy decision for the parents to make. We serve 50 children every year in our summer camp. It's a free summer camp, full day, free breakfast, free lunch, field trips. We take them out of town to places like Gettysburg National Park or Paul Robeson House in Philadelphia, Frederick Douglass House over in Southeast. And every year, as an award for working as hard as they do in the summer camp, we make sure we go to Ocean City and spend a day at the beach there, having a good time. And children respond to kindness. They don't give us gifts, but the one thing they do give us is an expression of love and energy and accomplishment. So new and developed has meant to us a challenge of becoming displaced by the newly developed. So that's what we're trying to raise funds for right now, to make sure that we maintain our place here on historic U Street. We continue the same level of training and support that we give to the families that we've been serving for 23 years now. And we look forward to having new people that come into the area, investigate us, and when they do, I think they'll find that we're worthy of their support. And we welcome them. Hung Tao Choy Mei Leadership Institute here on U Street is home for everybody that passes through this way.